Was LeBron James' supposed wardrobe malfunction simply happenstance, circumstance, or circumspect? ABC Network's GMA, Good Morning America, absolutely clowned this morning. Well, it's Disney after all, and gave all of the confirmation needed that this was indeed a phallic ritual. Crowleyan sex magic is based around utilizing the sexual energy that is produced, especially when doing deviant sexual acts. That can range from things that were considered immoral, especially during his time, to bestiality, and of course his favorite, pedophilism. However, we find the use and symbolism behind the phallic symbol all around us. One of the most famous examples is the Washington Monument, and I'll show how that even tied in a second. Now, when looking at something like Good Morning America, you have to fight the feelings of airheadedness that shows like that are meant to produce. But when they told the LeBron James story, some things just jumped out at you, and I believe that you would have had to have been absolutely clueless to not recognize that this was a ritual, and they were showing you why. Now, first of all, they continuously compare the story, as I've seen others do, but this is just the tip of the iceberg. They compared the story to when Justin Timberlake and Janet Jackson did the Super Bowl performance that brought us the curious and all too common term now that we take for granted, wardrobe malfunction, quote unquote, which was basically the BS explanation or the BS terminology that was created to hide what was in essence a humiliation ritual. That's what a lot of people will summarize that type of ritual as. But it's always something to do with sex or bearing oneself. And you can also compare that to what's done in the Skull and Bones, where the most notorious of Ivy League secret societies, the Skull and Bones, has been outed a number of times for their homoerotic practices and for having the initiates lay inside of a coffin bucket naked, many say while masturbating, and talking about their past sexual exploits. Well, that's a humiliation ritual, and it's done to kind of hold something over someone's head. In most secret society practices where it's done behind closed doors, but when it's done in front of people, and you generally only see that with famous people, it has a different meaning, and it is a form of self-sacrifice in front of the media. Let me slay myself or sacrifice myself. Ironically, Osiris represents a form of sacrifice, if you will. It was his phallus that was used to resurrect or bring forth Horus in the Egyptian pantheon of gods, in that story of the lead god and goddess Osiris and Osset. But with LeBron's Johnson, several things have to be pointed out. One is this: he represents the darkness in this darkness versus light play that's being portrayed a number of ways, but it's also being portrayed in the NBA Finals. Two words that mean gladiators or soldiers, warriors and cavaliers. And cavalier can also be applied to one who has thrown caution to the wind, or one who doesn't care, careless, especially in battle, but both words applying to soldiers. And this having to do, again, with the black and white dynamic that we see all of the time when we're watching things that expose Masonic symbolism. One of the most common Masonic symbols is that of the black and white chessboard floor, and it's chess, not checkers. Because it has so many different meanings and applications, it's really more complex than checkers, at least to the layman. Once you begin to get into it, you see the limitations of their occult language, and then you begin to understand their symbolism. No matter how they change it up, they're usually always saying the same set of things. But LeBron's goal is to represent the anti-hero. That's a new thing, relatively new, I would say, since about, I don't know, 2007 or so, around 2006 maybe, around the time of the Dark Knight. This new anti-hero idea began to really explode. You know, not that was the first time it was seen. Some people will point back to the Matrix, but it began to be popularized in a lot of films. And we've even seen it in some of the superhero movies. Wolverine kind of represented that, but it's this dark hero. The hero's not the goody anymore. And this, they say, is because they were programming us to accept how the government as the hero, or the police as the hero, was also going to become darker entities and would be seen in a darker light. Again, this symbolism of darkness and light played over and over again. Duality, opposites, not balance, which is a natural phenomenon of the Creator. He sets things in balance, even things that appear to be in opposition to one another. Upon further examination by the spirit, you'll see that it's really balanced. Well, not so for the powers that should not be. They're operating under a different force, and they utilize the force of duality, darkness and light, using contrast, making these absolutes, and really stereotyping and categorizing, okay, because you have black and white members on both teams. But again, this is the way of symbolism. It's symbolic. You have LeBron as the bad guy representing black, and the devil. Yeah, he's a Capricorn. He's representing the goat, greatest of all time, oddly, and GOAT acronyms. And he's also representing King James and believers. Now, I had said before, I wouldn't be surprised if LeBron and them win. However, looking at some things now, you know, and knowing that this is the time of the double cross, could this be the geek up for the big letdown for all of the people who are putting their hearts and souls into this in Cleveland? Some people who need some things to believe in. And what better way to traumatize a city? I remember how they traumatized us Detroiters when we were going against the Boston Celtics at first during the Bad Boys years, and then later on LA. And of course, we got most traumatized wrestling around with Michael Jordan. But it was interesting, the banter that went on during Good Morning America when they told this story. And, you know, they told it rather tongue-in-cheek, as much as could be done in a very early morning talk show. But they still made a lot of allusions to the phallic symbolism even after the story was told. And let me show you how. This story, which happened on 6/11, which is an inversion of 9/11, after they told this story, then they threw out to Ginger Z, who happens to be the weather girl. She shows different cities in the morning and what the weather's like there. And right after this story, As soon as they finished this story, they threw to her, and they were still giggling and snickering about the story, you know. And she is standing in front of a crowd of people who are waving phallic-shaped noisemaker balloons. And the picture that she decides to show, or that is picked to show for her, you know how the news is done. They're just figureheads and puppets, and there's darker forces behind them, darker force behind them, giving them all the same news to say. But they show Washington, D.C., and of course, the shot was of the Washington Monument, which is a representation of the penis of Osiris, who is considered the black god. And this is what LeBron's bearing of himself was all about. Public Enemy had an album out called Fear of a Black Planet. And part of keeping the race war going is to continue to generate fears, whether they are rational or irrational, conscious or subconscious. And for a while now, they've been using mostly the energy of disenfranchised black youth who have a lot of energy to burn. And I believe that that's needed to get things started. Oftentimes it takes us to get things started. And now the part of the play that you're going to see is the white fear response, denial response, and then the white rage response. And that's when things are really going to boil over. Believe it. But believe it or not, I believe that that was shown on TV to everyone for, you know, all of the basic perverse reasons. Of course, there were children watching and families was looking and everything. And there's no way all of the years that you've played in front of cameras and been in front of cameras that you're not camera aware. Come on, tell it to somebody else. So this was done on purpose. So then I had to discern, be led to what was the purpose, because the Lord led me to that purely by what I would have seen as a mistake if I did not know better. So that's what that was all about. Now, when they come back from Ginger Z giving the weather report, they throw back in to Robin and the crew, Robin and George and the rest of the crew. George Stephanopoulos, who was once a member of the government and now he's working in media. That just goes to show you how intertwined government and media are. So what the media says is what the government wants them to say. That's a perfect example of that. And on the Disney station, but they throw back into Robin, who is, you know, a professed lesbian. And she says, "I feel like I should be blushing right now." Well, she don't know none. But that was just to further confirm what that story was all about, what they were doing and what they were up to. Curry is the good guy. He represents the good guy. And, you know, as archaic as some may want to think that it is, black folks are still color struck among one another. That's what we call it when a black person prefers light-skinned people. Yeah, a lot of black people do that. A whole lot of black folks, especially the old folks used to really do it. My grandma did it. But it was, some people could say that it was part of a self-preservation reaction. You know, that lighter child would be treated different in society by the white slave masters and by, later on, the white business owners, the white schoolmasters. And so that lighter child had a better chance of doing well and progressing, and then of bringing back some of that progress and success to the family. So even to this day, you still have remnants of that within our own community. So let's not play and act like white folks still don't have some remnants of their part in that, and their old feelings toward light-skinned and versus dark-skinned blacks. We see that all the time. Light is all right. If you brown, you can stick around, and if you black, you can jump back. That's what they used to say. So, even today, Curry, with the cute little daughter and the funny colored eyes, he represents what is considered attractive to society. That's no disrespect, to anyone. If you can see out of them, they're beautiful. But I have to say that to jar some people out of their belief. Some people pay money to put recessive genetic representations of eye colors over their dominant genetic eye colors, which is absolute lunacy. Who steps down? You step it up. But you have what you have. But for some people who don't appreciate what they have, or even worse, who think that what they have is bad, or there's something wrong with what they have, because society promotes backwards things, the reversal of things. It's part of the Crowleyan law of reversal. Okay, things like that have to be said. I'm sorry, you get over it, you'll be all right. But I know that everybody understands what spirit that was from, and it's the time of revelation. Things had to be revealed. Okay, but he does. He represents the good guy, and anybody who says otherwise, you're lying. Even the Golden State, the Golden Boy, those Golden versus Cleveland, right? Which is a Midwestern industrial type town that people look at kind of gritty, not very differently than how they look at Detroit in a lot of ways. So it's going to be interesting to see how this plays out, because again, I don't care about the injuries or whatnot. I would be shocked and amazed if they have invested in him just to tear him down too. But then again, they invested in Detroit just to tear it down to build up another one. So it's part of their thing to build up something great and then to destroy it, to put something else in its place. So we don't know if that's already been done to him internally, or if this is the time they're going to do it to him. And we'll all see that at the same time. But yes, any who had any doubts about it, have no doubt about it, that was definitely a phallic ritual. Also, you may want to factor in the shame of going back. Once you leave a place, with big dreams and whatnot, to come back kind of with your tail tucked between your legs is one form of shame already. But perhaps this is to further make him prove himself to his Illuminati elite masters. But also was the gash in the head, symbolizing again the anti-hero, the Dark Knight, in essence symbolizing, in the eyes of many, Obama. That's right, as the black savior. He's the black savior on the court. The comparisons between revered biblical figures, they have that in common. But I believe that was a precursor or a primitive event to foreshadow the wound that's spoken of in the book of Revelations, from which a particular Antichrist will heal. And I think that we are coming upon that time. And this black and white chessboard dynamic that's being ramped up racially. It has a lot of applications, male versus female, the erasing of gender, finding the gray area between the black and white. We've seen that played out a lot in the news media concerning Bruce Jenner. But this black and white tension, this energy, is going to be used for the first black and white president who compares himself to Lincoln and Dr. King and JFK, who have one thing in common. Now a climate is being produced, much like the climate that was produced during the Civil War, where the nation was divided and people on one particular side were very angry at the president. So watch what he does. Perhaps we'll get reparations, but just keep your eye on the ball, y'all, and you can read through this code, okay, by the will of the Creator who creates all things. He will guide you, give you Jeremiah 33:3 discernment. Bless you all, and thanks for listening. Peace.